topic for today's discussion is insights on healing vaginismus from our team. Let me begin by giving you all a brief overview or kind of set the context for today's event. For anyone who's unaware of what vaginismus is, it is difficulty in allowing vaginal penetration of a finger, penis, or even an object, even though the woman desires to do so. Now, during our previous webinar, we've discussed in detail what the symptoms of vaginismus are, what the causes may be. For anyone who may be experiencing these symptoms, how you can reach out to us and seek help. So all of these things were discussed in our previous webinar. If any of you have missed it, we're sharing a recording of the first webinar in the chat box. Please feel free to save the video and watch it later. So in today's webinar, we shall focus on aspects of mental health and pleasure. We shall learn how these two things are related to vaginismus and why a program emphasis on mental health aspects like emotional healing, why a program has partner support sessions, and why pleasure coaching sessions are a part of the program. So we shall learn all of these things in today's webinar. The event today will largely be moderated by our lead vaginismus expert, Dr. Taru Jindal. It's also my pleasure to introduce our panelists, Dr. Dharav Shah, who is a psychiatrist and who leads the partner support sessions in our program, Dr. Neha, psychiatrist and vaginismus coach, Subhangini Tiwari, clinical psychologist and vaginismus coach, and last but not the least, of course, Apurupa Vatsalya, sexuality educator and pleasure coach for Proactive for Her. Before I hand over, I want to let you all know that we'll also have a short Q&A section towards the end of the webinar. So at any point, if you have any questions that you'd like answered, please drop these questions in the chat box and we'll pick these up. Dr. Taru, handing over to you.
Hi, namaste everyone. Taru this side. Extremely glad to have all of you here with us in the session. This is a part of the Vaginismus Week celebrations that we are doing with Proactive for Her. Last week, we had an elaborate session about causes of vaginismus and details of the healing process. However, the healing process discussion cannot be complete without involving the coaches in our program. So the coaches that you see in front of you right now are associated with us for a very long time now, and I have tried to get coaches from different aspects of our program together, like Dr. Dhara, who will be speaking about the partners, the story of the partners in the healing journey. Dr. Neha and Subhangini will be speaking about the emotional aspect of healing vaginismus, and Apurupa will be speaking about pleasure, because we don't often think of pleasure in our healing journey. We just keep thinking about painlessly penetrating, but we don't think of pleasure, and that's why she is an important part of our program who guides women to that. So I will be speaking to each of the coaches in detail, and we'll be hearing their insights, some tips on healing, and some of the things that they may have found really important in the healing journey. So I'll start with Dr. Neha Gupta. She is a psychiatrist, and she has been there with us almost since the beginning of the program. Hi, Neha.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, great. So, Neha, I have a few questions for you, and I would like you to speak in as much detail as possible, because this would be a very important resource for all of our participants. So the first question is, as Nisha just shared, that vaginismus is almost an internal conflict. Like, a part of you really wants to go ahead with sexual penetration, but then there is a part of you that just is saying no, right? And obviously we can see that the root causes of vaginismus are within our psyche. It's in our mind, because vagina is absolutely normal, right? When you go and get it examined. So as a psychiatrist, from your experience of dealing with so many patients with vaginismus now, what would you say are few of those core psychological reasons that ultimately cause vaginismus in a woman? What would you say then?
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank you for this question, and a very good afternoon to everyone. So I would like to say that sexual experience is actually a synergy of biological, psychological. Here we'll be talking about the psychological aspects of vaginismus. So like already shared that vaginismus is a condition in which the muscles around the vagina, they contract in response to any kind of penetration. And it's basically a psychosomatic condition. That is something which is happening in our mind with our emotions is actually causing these muscles to contract. So physically, there is nothing wrong in that area, but still it is contracting involuntarily, right? So the psychological factors which we commonly see, first one is the restrictive upbringing. So we live in a society where sexuality is never being spoken about openly. So at one point, like during our childhood and growing up years, it's like such a dark, disguised, taboo topic. Nobody talks about it. And then suddenly after marriage, it becomes absolutely normal, as if it's a very sacred thing. So there is a huge gap and there is a lot of confusion around it. Another thing is that lack of proper education around sex and sexuality. So I remember during, even in our college and even in our schools, these were some of the topics which our teachers would say that, okay, you can prepare it at home. So it would be just brushed like that, or it would be whatever we would read, it would be, we'll just mug it up. We'll not put too much of attention to what is happening. So this is another reason that whatever information we are getting, it is not a very direct information. And then we try to approach different other resources, like we are getting incomplete information from our friends, from, just out of curiosity from the porn sites, which again are giving us a very, very different picture, which is definitely not realistic. So again, in porn, we see so much of violence is there. So much, it is not the real thing that they are showing. The cosmetically, it is looking so good. And so then we start thinking that, there is something wrong, because already we are so much disconnected from that part of the body. So basically, the pelvic area, we associate it with all the, I would not say dirty things now after, being a coach, but I would say the excretory products. So we associate pelvic area with either poo, pee, or periods. So the only time we are touching that area is while we are cleaning it, while we are doing something with these excretory products. So we already know that it is a very dirty area, right? Another important, so there is already discussed around this area. Now, another very important thing is that there are traumatic things that happen during our childhood. So it can be any form of abuse. It can be sexual abuse. It can be emotional abuse, physical abuse that happens, which creates a huge impact. And we as kids at that time, we don't know how to process these emotions. We don't know to whom we should go and talk, because like our frontal lobe is not very well developed. Our judgment is not developed. So we just want to push it away. We want to suppress it, and we move ahead in our life as if nothing has happened. So vaginismus happened, we were not even aware about it. And we carried certain beliefs in our mind, which actually impacted it. So also other causes like disturbed family relationships, interpersonal conflicts between the parents, like witnessing the abuse. All of these factors also contribute, because each time we are seeing the muscles are contracting. They keep on contracting, and that is when the muscles really become tight in that area. So there are various maintaining factors also, I would say. And like I said, due to sexual abuse, the concept of self is completely lost. There is a lot of self-criticism which develops. There is a lot of shame and guilt about that area is there. And sometimes also when we get involved in, sexual play and exploration during our childhood, and we are being scolded, we are being told that we are very bad for this, that is when the guilt also develops. So we know that everything related to this area is, not acceptable. So we grow with this belief. And like I said, that there are various maintaining factors, like randomly if it did not work, so then we start having anticipatory anxiety. Then also during childbirth, how we have seen, then the Bollywood stories, movies in which they have portrayed it very differently, that how premarital sex is bad. I remember the movie Kya Kehna. Then also about the Nirbhaya case. So many of the females, we have seen that this has caused a huge impact on them. So all of these things definitely contribute to the vaginismus. And I mean, Subhangini can add anything if I have missed out. Like there is a lot, but these are the basic things which I can think right now.
Subhangini, would you like to add anything? Subhangini is also our vaginismus coach.
Yes, absolutely. Hello, everyone. A very warm good afternoon to all. Adding to what Dr. Neha said, right? So this trauma-focused lens becomes very important for us to have when we are healing it on a very emotional and psychological level. Why? Because first it helps us to identify that, if there has been an existence of any of these adverse childhood experiences that Dr. Neha mentioned, such as physical abuse, or let's say emotional abuse, or let's say trauma, any sort of violence, or all of these experiences, they contribute very significantly to that. Why is it very important for us to know about this? Is because trauma, anytime what happens when somebody experiences trauma, their entire belief about their self, the world, and the partners and the people around them changes. So they live with a lot of threats. So the entire world is an unsafe space for them. The entire body is a very unsafe space for them. And with research, we also know that, adverse childhood experiences have a very kind of contributing factor to the development of vaginismus. Even in our program, we have seen that, the history of childhood abuse is so common. So once we take this lens, we are able to identify it. So the most important part of the healing then becomes ensuring that safety that the person has never felt. So safety within their own body, ensuring that safety with other people around. So building around that, stabilizing the body, increasing their window of tolerance and their confidence in themselves that, yes, if I experience all of these emotional experiences, I will be able to cope through it. So that confidence in itself just brings that kind of, healing journey for them. And then of course, with that, we take that is the stance, and we from that stance, we take that and we reprocess the entire trauma, or we reintegrate all that they have experienced and change the narrative around the same. So of course, when it comes to healing of vaginismus, this trauma-focused lens, how Dr. Neha said, is very important.
Amazing. I think what I just heard from you is that sexual act is a very, very vulnerable space, right? We are allowing someone inside our bodies. So it requires a lot of safety for this girl, right? Safety in your body, safety with your relationships, and safety with your past, safety with your partner. So when you have all these safeties, then your body can just get vulnerable enough to do this, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
And we have to approach the whole thing from a trauma lens, because there is a lot of trauma involved in the root causes of vaginismus. Thanks, Subhangini. So Neha, if I could come back to you and ask you, what do you think is the emotional impact of vaginismus on a girl or on a woman? Like, how do you think having vaginismus or living with vaginismus impacts her as a person?
Right. So having vaginismus, first of all, sometimes the women doesn't even know that they are having vaginismus. And when they have their first sexual experience, it is like when it is not happening, they're experiencing a lot of pain. And also, like I forgot to mention one thing, that there is a myth that penile penetration is a very painful experience. So this we keep on hearing from our, uh, friends, from relatives, and then we start believing it. And also we have heard that whenever the hymen breaks, there is bleeding. And so sometimes women imagines that the bleeding would be like a pool of blood would be there, because based on whatever we have learned, incomplete knowledge, like I said. So definitely when they come to know, they start feeling that there is some lack in them. So there is a direct blow on their self-esteem. There is a direct blow on their, sense of womanhood. They think that there is deprivation. They're not able to do something which other females are able to do. And that is when they start overcompensating even in their relationships. They start doing things, they start accepting the behaviors of other people just because they feel that maybe I'm not able to do this, but let me try to be over good, over nice in other aspects. So these are some of the intrapersonal issues that happens, and because of that they may end up feeling anxious. There is a lot of depressive symptoms, starts impacting other aspects in their life. And because this is a dark topic for them, they don't know with whom they should communicate and who is able to understand them. And even if they are able to talk with some of their friends, the friends cannot relate because they don't have that kind of experience. And when they search, they can find anything about this. So then it is something that they have to suppress these things and they just go on. Some miracle would happen someday, they will keep on doing. On the other hand, there are interpersonal things that also happen, like in the relationship. Dr. Dharav will be discussing about the partner's perspective. But with the partners, it also happens that there is a lot of sexual frustration which is there in the partner. And because in our society, this has been not considered a topmost priority. If either a male or a female talks about the sexual needs, they think, oh, they want only this in the relationship. So they are not okay with any other thing. He is not emotionally supportive, but he wants this in the relationship. So the partner is also not able to communicate. And then there is passive aggression. So these are few of the things which I think that it emotionally impacts both the people in the relationship, the partner also and the woman herself.
Yeah, because we've often heard that vaginismus is much more than a clinical condition. It's much more than just not being able to penetrate. It just becomes like a socio-cultural condition because so much of the social roles that this girl has to play gets impacted by vaginismus, whether it is
Absolutely.
pregnancy or motherhood or the sexual role. So yeah, I can see that the impact can also be really huge. So, Neha, so if the psychological roots of vaginismus are clear and the emotional impact of vaginismus is also quite significant, when we start healing vaginismus for a woman, like we've been doing in the program, what is the approach you take and how exactly do we go about the healing process? How do we address these psychological traumas and the emotional impact that the woman is facing?
Right. So like we all know that it's a psychosomatic condition. So a lot of emphasis in our program is on the emotional healing. Once that emotional healing, and it's a continuous journey. So it's not like just with 1 or 2 sessions, it's going to be okay, but it continuously keeps on happening. And then physical healing with the help of dilators and along with a lot of pelvic floor relaxation and focus on pleasure. So here I'll be talking just about the emotional healing aspect. So the first most important thing which we do is we try to listen. We try to listen to their stories and whatever they have gone through, because this is a story which has not many listeners. So we want to be that listener and be empathetic and trying to understand that what they have gone through. It's so very important. They feel heard. And then because sometimes the traumatic history is being suppressed, and when we talk about it, it comes up to the surface at times. And then we try to understand, validate those feelings, those emotions, and try to establish safety while in the session. Because when they are sharing their experiences, they are feeling it's a very courageous thing to talk about it, first of all, because we have this fear of judgment. And when they are talking about it, it is very important to acknowledge and appreciate for them being so courageous. And then because they are already feeling that their physical self, there are symptoms of anxiety while they are sharing, we make sure that we build that safety while in the sessions by doing grounding exercises, different types of breathing exercises, so that they know that they are safe in the session. And then subsequently we do the cognitive restructuring. So like I said, there are certain beliefs, certain conclusions, or in Dr. Taru ma'am's language, certain songs that we have recorded during our childhood and growing up years, and those songs are somehow wrong. But at that time, that is the only thing we could have concluded in a certain way. So we try to identify those beliefs, we try to question them, and then we restructure them so that we can have a different perspective about that belief or thought. And then it becomes an affirmation which we have to repeatedly keep telling so that the subconscious mind is able to accept it. Then the third component is the psychoeducation, which is perhaps the most important thing, because like I said, that there are various myths, there are various misconceptions, and because the connection between that part of our body is lost, so we try to psychoeducate, we try to build that connection between that female and that body part so that they are able to embrace. And then of course, then the other parts like pelvic floor relaxation, then dilation, this keeps on going. And we have to keep them motivated throughout this whole process.
Right. So you said that it is these beliefs or experiences that are actually, even now, even though they happened 20 years back, they're still impacting the pelvic floor or the vaginal muscles and making them contract in response to penetration. So we simply analyze and restructure those influences or heal those influences, like maybe abuse or whatever.
Right.
And that can probably change the influence to the vagina from a no to a yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. And like, have you ever seen any such experience where a woman not just healed vaginismus, but also healed some more emotional issues that she was carrying with her during the program?
Yes, so because there are so many things intermingled with the healing vaginismus, so when they heal vaginismus, it definitely boosts up a lot of confidence. They become more resilient. They know that if they were able to deal with this discomfort in their life and they were able to get over this phase, they can do with anything else in their life. So sometimes they may get demotivated during this process, but now after healing vaginismus, they understand that life is like a highway. So there are going to be speed breakers. Our vehicle will slow down. It may stop, but we still have the opportunity to pick up pace and go ahead in our life till another speed breaker comes.
It's almost like learning very core life skills, right? We're learning core life skills during the program,
Exactly.
Help us in other aspects of life as well. Amazing. Thanks a lot, Dr. Neha. I think your insights were really useful to everyone who's come today. Really, really appreciate you joining.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dr. Neha. So Dr. Neha has spoken to us about what are some of the root psychological causes that cause vaginismus, how vaginismus can impact a woman's emotional life, and of course, what kind of healing approach do we take during the program, especially addressing the emotional causes. So now I would like to invite Subhangini, who is a psychotherapist with us, to join us and speak to us about her insights of healing. Hi, Subhangini.
Hello, Dr. Taru.
Okay. So Subhangini, like we just heard from Dr. Neha, that there is a lot of emotional impact of vaginismus on a woman, right? So when we start the healing journey, do we find that some emotional issues actually impede or negatively impact her healing journey? I mean, whatever she has to do during the healing journey, her emotions are actually becoming a block rather than being a facilitator to the healing. So any experience with how emotions can actually block healing?
Yes, absolutely. And some of these emotional blocks.
Subhangini, can you just be a little loud because your voice is really low? Can you hold this near your mouth?
Yes. Is it better now? Yeah. So I think some of the major emotional blockers that I have seen during my experience here is that, let's say, first of all, avoidance behavior that comes with fear. It's like I fear a cockroach and there's a cockroach in the bathroom. I will not go into that bathroom, right? Because I fear that. So that's a very natural human response. And that's the same thing that happens. Something is coming near the vagina and I want to avoid that experience, right? So one of the things is that fearing that, okay, how is it going to happen? All of a sudden, everyone is telling me it's going to happen, right? So that avoidance behavior, working around that, that's the biggest emotional blocker. So first we work around desensitizing that, and that's how we move ahead. Further, I've also seen some emotional blockers like subconscious resistance. So for example, let's say somebody is on dilator 4 and there has been a blocker and now there's a pause in the practice. So sometimes we find out that that's because maybe, now the subconscious resistance is that now if I heal this, now my partner will pressurize me to have a baby, right? So then they feel like, subconsciously, they feel like it's okay for me to pause here. So that's another way of an emotional blocker which can come in between. Or let's say conflict between partners, that, partner is not appreciating me enough, is not supporting me enough. Why am I doing it? I'm doing it for me and my partner, and he's not playing the 50% of the part. So that also, that frustration becomes an emotional blocker then. Or let's say sometimes some denial coping mechanisms that, okay, the sex is not such a huge deal. It's okay if I will be emotionally connected to my partner, it will be okay. But like Dr. Dharav says, sex is just 20% of it, but when there is no sex, it becomes 80% of the relationship, right? And then let's say, I think according to me, the most important emotional blocker that I have identified as a psychotherapist is that inner critic voice that builds inside the mind. So just like Dr. Neha said that, the impact on self is that I start feeling that I'm not good enough. I start feeling that my body is maybe broken. That is why I can't do it. Everybody else can do it. So somewhere there is this core belief that I'm worthless or I'm defected or something of that sort. Because of these beliefs, what happens is that there becomes a very inner critic voice, which is always saying, you can't do this. Oh, dilated 3, you will not be able to do it. 1 was very small, 2 was very small. How will you do 3? You can't do this. Have you ever done anything? So it's like that critical voice that keeps talking to us all the time in our entire healing journey becomes the biggest emotional blocker. And I think the healing work also lies there primarily.
And I think this is impressive that you spoke about the inner critic, because we often notice that these girls have been living with the inner critic for a very long time in their lives.
Absolutely.
And it just kind of comes together with vaginismus and makes it worse. But they have been living with it for a very long time, and healing all of this together kind of heals so many things in her, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Great. So, Subhangini, like in our program, the support group is a very critical part of the program. In fact, women who uh, who are leaving the program after 8 weeks often give us a feedback that the support group was the most beautiful structure of the program. And we have many support groups. We have support groups that happen on weekends. We have support groups for pleasure coaching. We have support groups for pelvic floor relaxation. So we haven't often seen support group therapy in India apart from maybe alcohol or tobacco, right, for addictions.
Yes.
So how does support group therapy work for sexual healing or for vaginismus healing? What is your experience with that?
Yes. I think according to me, the support group is the heart of our program as well. So what happens is that prior to entering that collective space, the person feels all alone. The person feels isolated. They feel I'm alien because everybody else around me can have sex. I'm the only one who can't do it. So I'm an alien. I don't belong here. But when they enter this collective space and see people with the same experiences, with the same stories, what they understand is that, oh, they feel heard for the first time. Oh, people like me exist. Okay, I'm not an alien. A world like this also exists where people are experiencing this. They feel understood for the first time and they feel connected hearing everybody's story. It's like, while we are hearing everybody's story, we are building empathy for them. And in turn, we are building the same empathy for our own self in that space. And like we spoke about how important safety is. So this is the first collective safe space in the world, right? And it's like, for example, I would love to give an example. When I was in my 7th grade, I had failed math and I was feeling extremely very, very low. Then my best friend came to me and whispered in my ear that even she has failed in math. So I did not feel bad at all. Why? Because I felt I'm not alone. And that's exactly how each one of them feel there, that I'm not alone. And we keep saying you're not alone, you're not alone. But this is the first time they feel that I'm not alone. And I think that feeling in itself is very, very empowering. So I think that's what a support group does in the program for us.
I totally agree, because when I was living with vaginismus for almost 7 years, the only one thing I wanted was to see another woman with vaginismus, right? And that is exactly what I didn't get to see till, even 2 years back. So I think that is phenomenal to see other women saying the same stories, same influences, same experiences across the country and across the world, right? And that's the commonality that kind of brings people together and feels, that sisterhood, that collective sisterhood
People
during
speaking
the
the
healing
same
process.
language as ours.
Yeah, beautiful. So, Subhangini, now that we saw the impact of vaginismus on a woman's personality, on her life, what is the impact of healing on her personality? I mean, how does healing vaginismus change her as a person, and how does it impact her life?
Yes, absolutely. So, Dr. Taru, like we spoke about how trauma changes the way a person sees themselves, the world, and others. So, healing in itself is never specific, it is always holistic in nature. So, if I'm healing one part of my body, I'm also healing the rest of my body together. So similarly, now that our program is also placed in such a manner, it is not one-on-one psychological healing or physical healing, but there are partner support group, pleasure sessions, group sessions, and so many things in holistically that we are focusing upon. Even the healing here becomes very holistic. So we don't just transition from not being able to have sex to be able to have sex, but we also transition from this inner critic voice to having a very compassionate inner voice. It's okay, I can make mistakes and I can learn from them, right? And then building that confidence with every time they succeed from one dilator to another, seeing that, okay, I was very anxious, but now my coach has given me these tools to deal with anxiety, so I can use those tools. And every time they do that, they learn that, okay, I have the choice, or I have the control now to pendulate between that state of tension to the state of relaxation. So that control and agency in itself changes their entire emotional journey altogether.
Can you just explain that word agency? I love that word agency.
All right, Dr. Taru. So agency, that is choice. I have a choice to do something about my condition. I have a choice and I can control this, or, deal with this in some ways that I can deal with it. And not just this, Dr. Taru, it's like, in this journey, we learn how to forgive ourselves. So let's say when trauma happens, what happens is that we become so critical towards ourselves. I should have known better. I could have done better. I should have done that. So all these shoulds and everything just keep us in this a very dark space. But then learning that, this was the best I could do, this was the best my nervous system could do, this was actually a coping response at that time. Had I not had this, and how would I saved myself at that moment? And once I heal myself, automatically I bring that healing to my partner as well, right? And because of, let's say, the sensate focus that we have, partner dilation, or Dr. Dharav sessions that we have, what we understand is that, okay, the grass is not greener on the other side as well, right? They're also experiencing things. Just because I have a condition doesn't mean that they are not living, they're not experiencing the impact of that. So I think that communication that is built in this journey, this entire journey, in this entire program, then learning to be vulnerable in front of the partner. And I think that vulnerability communication does that. All our defenses go away, and then we become authentic selves, and then we also forgive everybody there. So
Wow.
that's how it's a total holistic field.
Yeah, self-compassion. We often learn to be very critical towards ourselves, and compounded by the sexual inadequacy we may feel. So self-compassion, reclaiming the agency in our lives, right, and being vulnerable in front of our partners. Amazing. So there is so much. So someone had once said to me that, Dr. Taru, when we have vaginismus, we don't just lose penetrative intercourse, we lose so much more in life. And when we heal vaginismus, we don't just get back one penetrative experience, we get back our whole lives, right?
Yes, absolutely. Healing
Yes.
is always holistic, and I'm glad it is.
Beautiful. Thanks, Subhangini. I think you've directed us to Dr. Dharav. So let's talk to Dr. Dharav about the voice of the partner in the healing journey. Thank you. Okay, so Dr. Dharav, I invite you to speak to us. It's very often what happens is vaginismus is a story of the woman, right? So everywhere it's about her pain and uh, her 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 feelings of inadequacy, or what is she experiencing. This is the main highlight of the vaginismus story for anyone. We often don't realize that there is a partner also standing next to her. For many women, some are single, but for many there is a partner standing next to them. How does he feel? How does living with a partner with vaginismus impact the male partner? How does he perceive? What are his pain points? What is it that upsets him? And how does he experience living with vaginismus? And that's a story, that's a voice that has not come out. So I wanted you to share, especially also because you've been my partner for now the last 20 years, and I had vaginismus and you've lived with me. So as a coach, as someone who lived with a person with vaginismus, how can you throw some light on how men feel about this?
Okay. So I know that I want to thank all those who have come and joined us today, because I understand that women who have got vaginismus and their partners are carrying a lot of pain. And for me to get an opportunity to say something which may help you, I really value that opportunity. So thanks for joining. Also, like Taru clarifies every time she gives me the mic, okay, we are not doing this to make you feel guilty. So I do understand that each woman with vaginismus feels guilty. Oh, sex is not happening, my partner is suffering. So of course you have that understanding already. But we are just giving you some more specifics to bring in clarity as to what exactly is going on, right? Okay. So first of all, usually what I have seen is that partners are very supportive initially. Okay, they are very considerate and they are understanding. Okay, she's not intentionally doing it. I mean, first both are confused and both are wondering what is happening. There is some problem with me, there is some problem with the person, they're confused. And initially for few months, few years, they just try to be supportive and they are the ones who reassure their partners, don't worry, it will happen, etc. But as time progresses, initially both they and their partners are usually telling themselves कि sex is a small part of life, नहीं भी हुआ तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है, चलता है, not a big deal, doesn't matter. However, the reality is sex is a biological drive. And no matter how much you say कि हाँ एक दिन खाना नहीं खाए तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है, 2 दिन खाना नहीं फर्क क्या फर्क पड़ता है, but फर्क पड़ता है, वो होगा, right? So sexual frustration is pretty difficult to experience. So ऐसे जैसे बोलते हैं कि गंजा अगर एक person without a hair, when he goes to a party, the only thing he can see is hair. Similarly, a person who is starved of sex, the only thing he can think is around sex. And then he starts feeling, what a crooked mind am I? That's the only thing which comes to my mind. So because it's not there, it becomes all the more pressured in his mind. Okay. Anyways, so bottom line, it's pretty frustrating. I'll just give you an idea. Okay, there is something called as a conversion disorder in psychiatry, which means emotional conflicts are getting converted to physical symptoms. Okay. When a patient of conversion disorder comes to us, the first question we ask that person is, where does your partner live? Because sexual frustration is the cause behind almost 50% of conversion disorders. Okay. As a psychiatrist, when I saw this, I grew up in a spiritual background. I am still a spiritual person. And like all spiritual schools or religious schools especially, sex is criticized or it is said that it is relatively unnecessary, something to be kept minimum. I also grew up thinking that. But as a psychiatrist, if half the people who are getting mad because of stress and developing physical symptoms, if half of them, the cause of the stress is sexual frustration, that can't be that negligible issue, right? So I've come to realize that a marriage where sex is not there cannot be a happy marriage. Okay. Nowadays, the awareness around homosexuality is predominant, and that's what people think very easily in terms of. So just like a homosexual couple, I mean, one homosexual and one heterosexual person, if they marry, it's going to be a pretty stressful and sad marriage. Similarly, a heterosexual couple, but without sex, is also going to be a very frustrating and sad marriage. Let's accept that. So while we may try to tell ourselves, अच्छा ठीक है बाकी सब तो है ना, but sooner or later it does catch up. And then what happens is, in except for few rare 5% of couples, in 90% couples, fights will start to take place. Okay, because even though consciously they may not fight, but the irritation which has built up within, the cause of my sexual frustration is, in our society, marriage is the consent for sex. Outside marriage, it's a crime to have sex. I'm the only parameter of character in our society is, does he have sex outside or not? Does he have an affair or not, right? So I cannot have an affair. So how do I satisfy my sexual needs? So they get frustrated, and then at a conscious, unconscious level, my partner is responsible for my sexual frustration, and that irritation comes. Like Neha and Subhangini said, the woman with vaginismus is also big time under emotional stress. She's feeling insecure, she's feeling low self-confidence. So two stressed people, and there is good fight on trivial things. Right? Now, at times, they don't even know So many couples who come to us fighting for other things, they don't even tell about their sexual life. But when we see that they're fighting and there is no major thing, we know the root cause is sexual life. And then we ask them and then they talk about it. And so many couples don't even know that the frequent fights they are having is because of their sexual problem which they are facing. And worse still, in some cases, like Taru also did, कि साला प्यार ही नहीं है जब शादी में तो मैं वजनिस्मस पे काम क्यों करूं? Okay, so they fight and then they start believing this is the core thing. Vaginismus se baad mein, and also vaginismus is too difficult to work on. Fights are easier to work on. So they also focus on let's first solve this, and then that can come in the way of vaginismus getting solved. So I have two suggestions to make to all of you who have joined us today. That, like Subhangini was saying, avoidance is natural, but it is extremely unhelpful and something which will complicate your pain and stress in life. So a lot of women avoid for years together until their partner finally discusses separation. And then they have a grudge. How dare he talk of separation? I have done so many things for him for so many years. And he forgot all that? All that matters to him is sex? Is this what love is? Okay. Now, very genuine emotions. But two things I would encourage them to understand. One, okay, while it is true that he's talking of separation, he's stuck on for 2 years, 4 years, 7 years, 10 years, 14 years is equally true. And if he only wanted sex, he was an idiot to stick for so long. Okay. The fact that he has stuck for so long means he valued you and he loves you. So people are in a dilemma. Because most partners and husbands understand that she's not doing it intentionally, she's suffering, and they have compassion and they want to help. But on the other hand, they are feeling emotionally frustrated in life and they're feeling miserable in life. And they don't know how to solve it. Neither can they leave you, neither can they be with you. Okay. So to give you an example, in few batches back, we had a participant, the husband and the wife were staying in separate rooms. Okay, he would sleep in a separate room because he could not handle that frustration. So most of the days he would sleep in a separate room. However, the same husband, when his parents came to know of it and they were trying to talk of separation and stuff, he separated from the parents and they started living separately. So what does this show? Most husbands, in spite of all the stress they're undergoing, want to help. Okay, so all I can say is, okay, yes, if the marriage remains incompatible for a long time, I mean, that's bound to happen. But, and therefore, please prioritize it. Keep hope that it is possible. You try to make a bulb in the wrong way, you try 1,000,000,000 times and you will fail. But you do it the right way. So many people, 2 days back, a couple who had not healed for 14 years finally consummated the marriage. Okay, so the guy was like, it's not possible. Yeah, you're doing this program, I've come, but it's not possible because 14 years of hopelessness. Okay, but when you do it the right way, it is bound to happen. So I want to encourage all of you, keep hope, prioritize it. Please don't fool yourselves into saying, okay, other than sex, everything else is normal. It may be normal on the surface, but below the surface, your partner is miserable. I can guarantee that. Whether he's not telling that because he doesn't want you to feel stressed. But don't do that. Give it top priority more than anything else in life. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but I genuinely believe it. If you want to be in the marriage, I mean, if you value the marriage, not want to be in the marriage, but if you value the marriage and the partner, then give it top priority to heal it. You have a right to change the therapist. You come to me, it doesn't help, go to someone else. That doesn't help, go to someone else. But you don't have a right to stop therapy. And it will solve. And for those of you who don't solve it fast, I want to reassure you that there is a bonus coming for you. Because if you're not solving in 8 weeks and you need more time, then that means the trauma your mind was dealing with was bigger than other women. And that means the personality change you're going to experience at the end of it is going to be much bigger. For others, it's just going to be abhi sex kar sakte hain. For you, it's going to be a new life. Okay. So if you're not healing in time, don't worry. Continue working. And the second important thing I want to tell you is one of the biggest hurts partners feel is to hear whenever they, so first of all, they will not talk on this because they feel that if they talk on this, you will feel stressed. Then after 2 years, 3 years, they finally gather the courage to talk about it in a very soft way. And then usually they get barked at. Okay. Because of a natural coping. Okay? This is something very stressful and you cannot, you only want this. Or making them feel guilty. Okay, what sex, that's the only thing. He has spoken of it once after a long time. And you're like, this is the only thing you feel. Or for various other reasons. Unknowingly, not very knowingly. But we start blaming them, shouting at them, etc. And then telling, okay, you don't love me, etc. So it's very stressful for someone to take that. Okay, first of all, I'm trying to be very considerate. I am finding the marriage very stressful, but I'm trying to be as supportive as I can. And then to hear, okay, you are a selfish person, you don't care for me, you only want sex, is a pretty difficult thing to take. And they themselves are doubtful, should I be talking of it or not? And then when they're made to feel guilty for talking about it. So especially if they're talking in a respectful way on this, or in general, whatever stress you have, I encourage you to discuss that in therapy. I encourage you to even share that with your partner, but in its true, genuine form, that I'm feeling very insecure. Do you really love me? Fine, say that. Say your concerns. But don't criticize him. You are troubling me. Because of you, I'm this, etc. Don't do that. Your marriage will solve faster.
Thanks a lot for sharing this impact.
And one more thing, I just wanted to encourage all of you that please don't target, I want to do sex. Yeah, my husband should be able to do sex. Don't keep that as a target. Work on it for your own self. I want to experience sex. Okay. Okay. Well, all these women are enjoying. I'm missing out. I want to experience it. Keep that as a goal. Because ultimately, even if penetration happens, if you are not excited about sexual life, you're not going to have a good sexual life. In other words, your husband is not going to have a good sexual life anyways. So even if you're doing it for him, do it for your own self. And of course, it's fun. So enjoy. Yeah.
Lovely. So, Dr. Dharav, what would you say? How can, so we'll take your questions, Sahiti, after some time. What would you say, Dr. Dharav, that how can a partner support this woman in vaginismus journey? What can he do? And like you have a partner support group also in the program in which you facilitate a support group of all partners.
So the few things which we
so how do you help them?
So the few things which we tell them are starting with helping them understand that it has not been intentional and she does want to have sex. She does love you. Secondly, it's the social conditioning which is to be blamed and not the person. She is equally stressed with all this thing and definitely slightly more than you because she also has to take the blame of I'm not able to do it. So we try to help them empathize and release the hurts or the anger which they may have. And then we talk of, so of course it's predominantly something which the woman has to work on. But there are some small things which we encourage them. We encourage them to just prioritize time for this because the partner is undergoing something emotionally pretty stressful. So to just be around there, to create time for sensate focus exercises. We try to give them hope, just as we try to give them hope that while it's difficult, it's definitely possible. Hundreds of women have done that. We encourage them to, so far as they are working on it, we tell them that fine, if they were not working on it, then you can be upset and you can have all the emotions, especially when they're showing commitment to work on it. Try to assure them of your patience so that they can be relaxed about it, because being relaxed during this process definitely helps. So yeah, these are some of the things we can.
Right. So a lot of times we've seen that partners don't understand why should I join this partner support group. But yeah, this gives us some perspective that his support or his patience or his understanding and empathy during the program can greatly enable this girl to sit with her healing journey and heal herself. So partner support is very critical, and if not done, then that can become a huge block. So yeah, thanks a lot for sharing this, Dr. Dharav. And I think partners across the country or the world who are living with women with vaginismus would have felt heard and would have felt like their voices have come out. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So now I invite Apurupa Vatsalya, who is our pleasure coach in the program, to speak to us about pleasure, because from my own experience of healing, I've realized that, like Dr. Dharav was saying, we don't think of pleasure in this journey. We are just either thinking of pregnancy, or we are thinking of just preventing a divorce, or we are just thinking of just shutting the partner's mouth and, okay, take it. I mean, this is painless sex. This is all we are thinking of. We don't own up the process and think that this is something we're doing for ourselves and our pleasure. And that's why the missing piece of the puzzle is pleasure for the woman and having her reclaim her own sexuality. So, who better than Apurupa to talk about this, because she's a pleasure coach and she takes elaborate sessions on pleasure for our participants in a group format. So, I really wanted to hear from you, Apurupa. Uh, how does uh, how does vaginismus impact pleasure experience of a woman, and how can experiencing pleasure actually impact the vaginismus healing journey? How do the two like go together?
Yeah, yeah. No, firstly, it was so wonderful to hear the other speakers. And Dr. Taru, you're a treat as usual. And I also wanted to congratulate you at the outset, Dr. Taru, for really centering pleasure in the program. Right now, of course, we have pleasure support groups, but even before that, I think your approach has always been, how does one reclaim these experiences of pain, frustration, shame, fear, guilt with pleasure? So the first thing that the participants of the program actually learn is how to pleasure themselves, to look at their vulvas, to touch themselves, to understand the clitoris, to look at pleasure even beyond penetration. Because it's not true that just because a person is going through vaginismus, they don't want to experience pleasure, or they don't feel desire, or they don't feel attraction. They're feeling all those things. They're wanting pleasure. However, they're not able to experience it because our head is also stuck somewhere in pleasure is equal to penetration. Yes, penetration can be very pleasurable. It can be a lot of fun. And of course, one wants to experience all the pleasures that are possible, right? As humans, we are designed to seek pleasure. And why not? If there is such a pleasure available, we must absolutely be able to access it. But at the same time, it's not the be all and end all. So Dr. Taru, the way that you have encouraged in the Indian context for women to, for instance, look at erotica, or to look at ethical porn, or to even like access those mediums for themselves and to reclaim their sexuality and their bodies. And to also, like, I think many women who've joined the program have told me this was the first time we even looked at a vibrator. This was the first time we've even heard a vibrator for many of them. So the fact that you have always centered pleasure in this program is something that I wanted to really commend you on. And secondly, yes, our body will not be able to experience pleasure and pain at the same time. So the more we increase pleasure, the pain will decrease and the pain will dissipate and disappear. So absolutely necessary for us to, in general, seek pleasure. And I also find that there is a really big barrier for us as women when it comes to pleasure, right? Because one, we are taught that anything sexual, anything to do with pleasure is shameful, you're being greedy, you're wasting your time, why don't you rather like focus on something else instead of your body and trying to touch it? There is that notion. And there is also this notion that women are just givers. We must not receive, we must not ask for things, right? We must endlessly, selflessly keep giving. So I think what the pleasure narrative within vaginismus also challenges is these two very patriarchal notions of how we are to live our lives. So in that way, this program is so radical. It's really telling women that this is your body first and foremost. You are entitled to experience pleasure by using this body, whether with yourself or whether with a partner. So absolutely, I think that really changes, and what Subhangini and Dr. Neha and Dr. Dharav have also discussed, which is it's not altering just one aspect of your life. It's altering every single aspect of your life because of that. You're able to receive more, and that's such a huge thing. You're able to actually prioritize your happiness. You're actually able to prioritize your needs, which we as women are taught to like constantly deprioritize. And the funny part about all of this is the more that we do that, the more we are able to give. because what we were previously trying to do is we were trying to give with a glass half full. Like you said, penetration ho jaye bas, le lo tum ye bas, and let's get done with it. But the more pleasure you are experiencing, the more you're able to give pleasure to other folks. And also, like I wanted to point out that pleasure is a muscle that we build. Just like, when we were kids, it's not like brushing our teeth came very natural to us, right? It's not like taking a bath came very natural to us. There had to be somebody who guided us through that process, who had to constantly remind us to do these things, who had to assist us to do these things. But over a period of time, now nobody's telling you to brush your teeth. You're getting up in the morning and you're going and brushing your teeth. So similarly with pleasure, yes, there is that kind of support and guidance that is required in the initial part. And I would like extend this to all people, not just people who are experiencing vaginismus. Any person, like pleasure is not something that we are taught how to access. So that is a muscle that we're going to have to mindfully build. And post that, it will feel natural, normal, and the idea is for penetration and pleasure to feel just natural and normal, things that we can access easily. So so I would say that this is the only program in the country, and I will make this claim in this platform, which actively centers pleasure, which says if you were to go to any other sexologist, any gynecologist in the country, the advice that they would usually give you, and this is something that I've heard over and over, and we've worked with hundreds of women at this point, Dr. Taru, is that just suck it up, just breathe through it and just go through it. Thoda sa dukhega, but it will stop hurting eventually, right? Like that is the advice that is given, as opposed to this program that says, no, it's about you. It's about you feeling good. And like, I love that Dr. Dharav also said that it's fun. Yeah, sex is supposed to be fun and it's supposed to be joyful. And I believe that that's what the program really emphasizes on. So I will, absolutely say that pleasure is so intrinsically linked to vaginismus healing, and that is the way to go.
Perfect.
I'm just going to pause for a second. Okay, in case we have not clarified at some point in the workshop or before, okay, if you have vaginismus and if it's very painful, please don't attempt to penetrate till it is healed. Yes. Contrary to what people are saying, just do it. It's going to give you more painful experience, more conditioning of I don't want it. Okay. So don't attempt penetrative sex till it is healed.
Love that.
Beautiful. And after our pleasure program, what I have understood is by the end of, when it's the last step and they're ready to penetrate, they've completed their dilators, they have evolved so much as pleasure seeking human beings that they are like these sexual goddesses. Hey, come on, I'm ready to do it. And sometimes the guy is like, okay, wait, I'm not ready. Which shows that and so many women said that I didn't come for this. I didn't come for pleasure. It was not on my radar. I just wanted to finish this off, right? This headache. I just wanted that to go. And they just see themselves transformed as someone very different. And so many women said that because there is such a focus on pleasure in the program. See, pleasure is whenever our body experiences anything pleasurable, it wants to do it. And that's why when we have these pleasure things going on with our sessions, one of the women also told me that I was having my lunch and I was like, when will my lunch get over and I'll start dilating, right? That is a fun of including pleasure in this program, and it makes it totally stress-free. Okay, awesome. So, Apurupa, I have a question for you. The question is, just a second. Just a second.
No worries, Doctor. While Dr. Taru joins us back, I just also wanted to point out that with vaginismus, our bodies become these sites of like and frustration and stress and pain that we forget that they're actually sites of pleasure. And with vaginismus healing, we're also able to reclaim it as such. And like Subhangini mentioned about agency, it really brings us back to our bodies. It really brings us back to that kind of agency, which then percolates other aspects of our life as well.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry for that interruption. So my question here is, Apurupa, like you were saying that most of us think of orgasm as pleasure. That's the only thing we can think of. How can we expand our radar beyond just thinking of orgasms? Because I know a lot of women talk to me saying that, hey, we had our first penetrative sex. It was very painless, but no pleasure. I mean, no orgasm. There was pleasure, but no orgasm. So there is a lot of orgasm focus when we are talking about pleasure. So what would you say about that?
I mean, I'd say that this obsession about like finishing sex with orgasm is very not required. Like pleasure does not equal orgasm does not equal pleasure. There are many times where one may experience, there is also such a thing as arousal non-concordance, where even people who have been survivors of sexual violence in that situation might have experienced lubrication, might have experienced an orgasm. That does not mean that they've experienced pleasure in that moment. Or just because somebody is not experiencing an orgasm for any reason, does not mean that they're not experiencing pleasure in that moment. I think we as a culture are so fixated on that finish line, so to say, in anything, that we forget to really enjoy this journey. And I mean, absolutely, like you deserve orgasms, and you must seek orgasms, but at the same time, that's not the only way to experience intimacy. That's not the only way to feel that kind of connection and sexual pleasure. And for many folks, for many women, orgasm through penetration alone, for a very high percentage, is not actually possible. Clitoral stimulation is a must, which is where your sex toys and vibrators come in so handy. And there's also this feeling, Dr. Taru, that, oh, I need a vibrator. There must be something wrong with me. And I think that is a ridiculous notion. And in 2022, we must discard it, because it's like saying, oh, I will only make chutney with pestle and mortar. I will never use a mixer grinder, because if I use a mixer grinder, I'm inadequate somehow. Well, the machine can do things that your fingers or genitals cannot possibly humanly do. It can also create like a new novelty factor. So like, go ahead and access whatever makes you feel comfortable. Like this very popular sex educator and artist Betty Dodson says, orgasms are orgasms. Does it matter where you get them from? Like, as long as you're having fun and it's feeling good, it should not matter. And also like something to say to the partners, which is where they feel like, I make my partner orgasm, so I have not made my partner orgasm, therefore something must be wrong, I must be less of a man. Well, that's really not the case. It's just like physiology. Like, it's absolutely okay for your partner to bring in a toy into the bedroom, and for you both to like experiment, use it as a collaborator. It's not your competitor, right? Like, the toy will never be able to replace human touch. The toy will never be able to do the kind of things that you can do for your partner, the kind of conversations that you can have with your partner. It's never going to be able to replace you. So just look at it as something that makes things easier, maybe makes things faster, maybe makes things more comfortable. So just look at it like that. And again, coming back to what you were saying, doctor, with regards to pleasure, there is another thing that often comes up as a question, which is that, oh, like, it just feels too far-fetched for me right now. Right now, agar penetration ho jaye, so that's enough. Like, pleasure just feels too far-fetched. It feels too far-fetched because we've not invited pleasure into other aspects of our life. Do you on a daily basis actively make time for your pleasure? Not just in sexual contexts, in non-erotic contexts. Are you looking at drinking a cup of chai as something that is pleasurable? Are you present while you're doing that? Or are you looking at it as something that needs to be finished and there is a to-do list running in your mind? So reclaiming these micro moments of pleasure in our daily life, and these micro moments of pleasure and connection, is so important. And the other thing is to really, think about, if I want to invite something new into my life, if I want to like invite an orgasm, or if I want to invite more pleasure into my life, then I'm going to have to subtract something from my life. I don't have endless time and resources, right? I can't be working the same job, having the same kind of routine, and then say that, oh, now I want to experience orgasm. I just need to rush into it. My body just needs to be able to get there. No, you're going to have to give it time. You're going to have to experiment with different things in your body. So look at also what can you subtract from your life in order to add more pleasure to your life. And also set yourself up for success. If you know that, like, so far, penetration itself, like touching your vulva itself, has been, a nightmare for you. Absolutely, your end goal can be, I want to be able to experience orgasms. Absolutely that. But at the same time, can we move towards that instead of saying that, oh, now penetration is possible, immediately I must start having orgasms. And also, I think building an understanding of what orgasms look like in your body. I think there is like often when people ask a sex educator or a therapist what orgasms feel like, they just give this cop out answer: Ki, you will know when you orgasm. You will just know. But I have been through like years of trauma. I have been through like years of frustration with my own body. I felt this disconnect from my body, right? My body and mind are not friends, and like now we're trying to rebuild that relationship. So I need to discover what orgasms look like in my body. Is it like a sneeze like that I've held in and like now it's come out, so it feels like that kind of release? Or do I get like, for some women, they feel a slight pooping sensation when they're experiencing orgasm. So what does it feel like in my body? To understand that also becomes important, and to not compare my pleasure with somebody else. Multiple orgasms are great, and if that is something that you're experiencing, kudos to you. Spurting is also something that some women might experience. Great, all these things exist, but my body is unique. And what does pleasure, what does orgasm, what does sex, what does intimacy, what does connection look like for my body and for myself? And to figure that out, and I think what this program specifically does, our program specifically does, Dr. Taru, is to help build those definitions for each person. Which is why, like, along with the group sessions, the one-on-one sessions that the therapy team also has with the participants, what it really helps them do is understand that, okay, I have a sisterhood. I'm not alone in this process, but I'm also unique in my journey of vaginismus. It's a spectrum of experiences. And what does it look like in my body? And therefore, how can I address it in my body in a way that makes sense to me at a pace that makes sense to me? I mean, I know I meandered a little, but I just wanted to sort of cover these few points.
I think simply amazing, because people come in thinking this will lead us to painless intercourse. But by the end, we talk about pleasurable, painless, penetrative intercourse. It's the 3 Ps, and it's not complete without the pleasure. And you've just brought it all together for our program. I don't think we would have got a better coach than you to do this. Thanks a lot.